Plays in a row from Washington's defense. Chuck Morrell playing two-man, two high safeties, man coverage underneath. If you get that look again, you want to try to work an outbreaker to your best route runner, which would be Xavier Worthy.
Well, where is he, right? He's got the speed. He's in the slot there. Out to the right. Closest to the line and the three receivers to the right. Ewers lofts it up. There's single coverage, and it's caught! With Jabbar Muhammad in single coverage. 30 seconds to go. There to the Washington 28.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to another edition of the Recruiting Show, part of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports, here on the Raw Prospect Podcast YouTube channel. My name is Michael Ween, and that play was made in the 2023 College Football Playoff semifinal by wide receiver Jordan Whittington, who I wanted to shout out this evening because he made the Los Angeles Rams 53-man roster. That's right. Preseason's over. By week 3 of the preseason, I'm pooped. I'm tired of it. Rosters over the past 36 to 48 hours have been cut down to 53-man, and we're ready to roll. 9 days from now is when the Ravens and Chiefs will kick off the 2024 NFL season. My name is Michael Ween. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're here tonight, as I said, on the Recruiting Show, which is a part of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. Make sure you go check out all our fantastic season preview content. Everything we have under the live section of our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. We should have my co-host, Emmy Nixon, joining at any minute to discuss some recruiting. He can give some of his takes and ask me some questions. We're going to be here for about 30 to 40 minutes talking recruiting, some big news here in recent days in favor of the Longhorns. I'll cover all of that. If you like what you see here, make sure you like and subscribe. So why not we just hop right in to the content. I'm going to make sure Emmy knows that I've started. It's been a wild August for Texas recruiting, put simply. We started out a couple weeks ago when I first introduced this recruiting show by landing Khalil Lockett, who's a 5-star wide receiver out of Sac City, Texas. That was Texas's really first big-time 5-star grab of the recruiting cycle. And by the way, there he is. Right as I mentioned him, there's my co-host, Mr. Jaime Nixon. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I ran a little late eating dinner. That's why I was not on time tonight, but I'm ready to get into it.
Okay, well, what I was saying in our intro, you probably didn't see the intro. I showed this play, which I'll play again, and then we'll hop right into the recruiting stuff because I wanted to shout out this particular player for making his team's 53-man roster as preseason's over and we've cut down to 50. Most teams have cut down to 53 men, and we're ready to go. 9 days from now, it's Ravens Chiefs, and we're excited about that. So I'll play this play again for you, and then I wasn't able to get the Fansville Quinn Ewers commercial downloaded for this episode, but we'll have that up for Thursday's episode. But here's that play, and then we'll talk Jonah Williams. If it works. Maybe.
2 plays in a row. And Washington's defense, Chuck Morrell playing 2-man, 2 high safeties, man coverage underneath. If you get that look again, you want to try to work an outbreaker to your best route runner, which would be Xavier Worthy.
Well, where is he, right? He's got the speed. He's in the slot there. Out to the right. Closest to the line and the 3 receivers to the right. Ewers lofts it up. There's single coverage, and it's caught! Jordan Whittington with Jabbar Muhammad in single coverage. 30 seconds to go. There to the Washington 28.
What a play by Jay Witt in that CFP semifinal. And he made the Rams 53-man roster. So good for him. Jonah Williams, man, he commits to the Longhorns on Saturday night. And as I was saying when you joined, really the first consensus 5-star commitment for the Longhorns this cycle. Depending on what service you look at, the Longhorns have been ranked between, top 12 to top 16 class. They've kind of been in the mid to lower teens in the team rankings. I don't pay attention to any of those rankings really this early on in the cycle. Those matter much closer to signing day. But for what it's worth, like, we've been talking about this forever now, it seems like they haven't really got that momentum that they seem to get every year. And now they're starting to get that. We got Khalil Lockett earlier on this month. You came on that show for a little bit, and now we get Jonah Williams. This commitment has me – it's in terms of pure excitement and joy for this commitment and how high I am on Jonah Williams as a prospect and an athlete. He's in my top 3 of commitments that Sark has landed since he's been at Texas. I love Jonah Williams. I think pound for pound, he's one of the best athletes, but football players in the state of Texas in this recruiting class. But I want to get your initial thoughts on the commitment of Jonah Williams before we get into where he ranks and what's the impact and everything else. What were your thoughts when you saw Jonah Williams committed to the Longhorns?
I mean, you mentioned just the fact – you mentioned the word athlete, and that can mean a lot of different things. But in the context of his football career, which he's going to play 2 sports at Texas, if you haven't already – I'm sure you already mentioned. But you can put him anywhere in terms of being a defensive back. Slot corner, deep safety, strong safety, doesn't matter. You can even stick him up there at linebacker in a few packages, have him blitz. Like, doesn't matter where you put him, he's going to make plays, man. And those are the type of football players you want. Like, that's the bottom line. And you can feel comfortable saying just about every game, I would say in the SEC, probably more like 90% of games, he would be the best athlete on the field. Big 12, probably damn near every game. But SEC, there's a few guys out there that are of his ilk, but he's up there. I mean, he's going to step on the field and make an impact right away next year.
Yeah, this kid, in my opinion, is a top 10 national prospect. If you look at where he's ranked by all the services, on Rivals, he's a 5-star. He's number 20 in the country, which is, by the way, the lowest ranking of all the services nationally, and number 6 in the state of Texas. I think he's a top 5 player in the state, but he's number 6 there. ESPN has him a 5-star, number 8 overall in the country, number 2 in the state of Texas. On3 has him as a 5-star, number 16 nationally, so a little higher than rivals, and number 4 in the state of Texas. And then the 24/7 composite has him rated as a 5-star, the number 10 overall player nationally, and the number 3 player in the state of Texas. So consensus, this guy is minimum a top 20 football player in the state, and or a top 20 football player in this class nationally, and like a top 5-ish player in the state in this recruiting class. Where does he fit at Texas? Well, I think pound for pound, maybe you can argue DeCorian more, but I think pound for pound, just because of what he's done in high school. He plays some receiver at Galveston Ball. He returns punts. He returns kicks. He plays safety. He can play defensive back. You can roll him down even to outside linebacker or nickel back. He's the best football player. There's not a better football player in the state. I think you will see some compare him to Travis Hunter, because I do think that if he was being recruited as primarily a wide receiver, he would be a super blue chip kind of prospect just because of his tools and athleticism, some of which translate from the baseball diamond to the football field. One of my favorite sources compared him to Darren Woodson, who was a former Cowboy back in the day. I really like that comparison. Darren Woodson back in his Arizona State playing days. Now, when you look at Jonah Williams, he's 6'3", 205 pounds. So the interesting thing here is if they put him in that Texas strength and conditioning program and he puts on 15 to 20 pounds, say by the time he enters his freshman year next fall, he's, I don't know, 6'3", 220, 6'3", 225. With that weight, is he able to still stick at safety, or would they roll him potentially down to outside linebacker? The thing about outside linebacker is that's kind of a loaded room right now. I think he's just going to be a guy they get in the program. They're going to start him at defensive back or safety, one of the two safety positions. We'll see if he can beat out a guy like Xavier Filsaime, who is in the 2024 recruiting class as a 5-star. There will be a competition there. I like Jonah Williams a little bit better as a prospect than Xavier Filsaime, but they're both great, both great prospects. It'll be a thought experiment for these Texas coaches to see where he ultimately ends up, in his career at Texas. But overall, man, he's just from the build, his ability to cover ground sideline to sideline, 6'3", 200-plus pounds. When he hits you, he thumps you. You're going down to the ground. He does a good job of driving his hips through the tackle and making tackles. I could easily see him eventually spin down to linebacker in some way, shape, or form. Maybe he's kind of the next Maurice Blackwell, but better. He's just, and then Jim Schlossnagle, he's going to get this kid in early as an early enrollee in January, and he's going to be part of the 2025 Texas baseball program as a guy who's a lefty who throws in the mid-90s. So at the very least, he's a guy that you can bring out of your bullpen. A lefty throwing mid-90s is something that not many other programs have in spades in their bullpen. And then he can play center field. And he can, he's got all the tools you need on the baseball diamond. So this kid is he's just different when we talk about recruits in the state, and he's a huge win for this Texas recruiting class.
Yeah, no question. I mean, to think like he's a 5-star in both sports, right? Like, I'm not sure how the star system works in baseball, but
Yeah.
oh man, like that's different. Like to be that good in two different sports, like that's just a extra level of natural athleticism. That's just crazy.
According to the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, Jonah Williams is the 9th highest rated football prospect to commit to Texas in the modern era. And he's the highest rated defensive back prospect to commit to Texas in the modern era. So he's got the potential again to be a first round NFL draft pick when it's all said and done on the football field, and the potential to be a first, second round, high round pick in the MLB draft. And that was the unique part of this recruitment. I think the opportunity to get Jim Schlossnagle really kind of opened the door for Texas to surge in this recruitment. But it was a combination of Sark, Blake Gideon, who you have to give a ton of credit to for the way he kind of changed the tides in this recruitment, and then Jim Schlossnagle, who absolutely played a part when he came to Texas from A&M on the baseball side of things. The opportunity to play safety, to stay close to home, to be in the baseball program under Jim Schlossnagle, who was recruiting him at A&M. I mean, for a while, A&M was the leader in this recruitment while Schloss was still at A&M, with the way that baseball program had surged in recent years. It's super exciting because we're going to get a load of Jonah Williams throughout the year. It's going to be on the baseball diamond. What is it? I don't know. Mid-February through June-ish, mid-June-ish. And then he's going to go right into football season. Into fall camp.
So he's an early enrollee.
Yes, he's going to be, according to what we know, he's going to be an early enrollee. He's going to – I don't know exactly how Texas baseball is going to deploy him right away. We will see. Mm-hmm. But in some way, shape, or form, he's going to contribute to the 2025 Texas baseball team. And then he's probably got a couple weeks, and then it's fall camp for football. What question does that raise? Number one, we've seen it's been rare that we've seen players like Jonah Williams try two sports in college, and being great in both can be really, really hard. But on the football side of things, if he's playing baseball and he misses spring ball, spring football, can he really emerge as kind of a day one starter on the Texas football team without having those extra reps in spring ball? I think he can. Right. But historically under Sark, coming in early, it really helps your position, or can help and aid your position in trying to play right away as a freshman rather than not coming in early and waiting to come in for the fall, because it's 15 extra practices and a chance to see you in live action in the spring game. But I think Jonah Williams is different. And then number two, will he be able to keep the weight on? I mean, this is a guy that really doesn't get an off season. He really has never had an off season. I mean, he's playing baseball in the spring, in the summer, and then he's going right into football, his high school football season. So he's not really in a traditional off-season program. He hasn't had, the weightlifting and all of that extracurricular stuff that these players do in the off-season. How does that affect him one way or the other, positively or negatively? But overall, this is a monumental win for Texas in recruiting for the 25 cycle.
Yeah,
Anything
it's
else
huge.
on Jonah Williams? Do you have anything else on Jonah?
Well, just to emphasize the fact that he's 6'3", that's probably be the last thing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's elite size for a defensive back. Doesn't matter if you're at safety, linebacker, or doesn't matter if you're at safety or corner, whatever. I mean, if you're 6'3" and you have the movement skills that he has, I mean, it's tough to beat that.
Yeah, I think and these are the last couple nuggets that we'll leave you with for right now. Just to demonstrate how much of a freak he is. Last year, he had or over the past 2 years, he has 6 pick sixes. So 6 interceptions returned for touchdowns. He has 8 punt returns for touchdowns, 117 tackles on defense to go along with 800 total yards of offense. And all that production is coming against 5A competition. And then on the diamond, he's touched 94 miles per hour on the mound as recently as this summer and was clocked getting from home plate to first base in 3.5 seconds after laying down a bunt. The average time for a major leaguer to get from home plate to first base is 4.2 seconds.
Jeez.
So that gives you just kind of an idea of how much of a freak Jonah Williams is, both on the diamond, because you said it right. Like I don't know how they scout the baseball side of things. I don't know how they rate those players. I don't think it's a star rating, but it's something along those lines. He's a 5-star in basically everything. He's just that unique of a prospect, and that's what makes me so excited to get him, because I didn't think, you asked me 2 months ago if we were going to get Jonah Williams, and I would have said there's very little to slim chance that he picks Texas when he commits. But these are 18-year-olds, and things can change like that, especially in the age of NIL. So that's Jonah Williams. We'll talk about him more. For the last 10 minutes here, we've got the Jaime Ffrench decision on Friday. He could be another 5-star added to this class, as I mentioned, like in the title, 5-star August for Texas. That's kind of what it's becoming. This has been a big month for Texas recruiting. You can ask me about Jaime Ffrench, whatever's on your mind, or you can ask me about O-line recruiting and landing Nick Brooks, missing out on Fasusi, whatever you want, whatever comes to your mind. So what's on your mind right now in terms of this recruiting cycle, other than Jonah Williams?
Well, let's start with Jaime Ffrench, just because the conversation before was, oh, can we get all 3 5-star wide receivers Texas is going after? That being DeCorian Moore, Khalil Lockett, and Jaime Ffrench. But now that DeCorian Moore has decided to go to Oregon, it becomes that much more imperative to bring Jaime Ffrench in. And my question to you is, since Moore has made his decision, has the, I guess, sense of urgency to get Jaime Ffrench gone up at all in terms of his recruitment?
I think the in terms of the sense of urgency going up for Texas to get him, or to get any prospect in this recruiting class, hasn't really intensified to the level, aside from maybe DeCorian Moore, and I think for what they had to do to get Jonah Williams, it's kind of just stayed level. It's not that they're not intense in trying to land these commitments, but the way the Texas staff has been approaching this particular class behind the scenes, the way they're thinking about this class, they must know something. I trust Sark. I trust this staff. Their track record in recruiting at Texas is hard to argue with. Their whole philosophy, from what I've heard, is October and November are going to be nuts in terms of flips that happen. It's going to be flip season. People are going to be flipping left and right, and we're going to go out and we're going to try to flip a couple of these guys like we've done in the past. Like just last year, they flipped the linebacker Ty Anthony Smith. They flipped Wardell Mack. Previous years, they flipped Kelvin Banks. They flipped Anthony Hill. They've done this thing before. But this particular year, they're not historically a staff that panics when one of their 1A or 1B kind of prospects commits somewhere else, because they're of the mindset that they're better in attack mode and not defense mode. Like they'd rather still want to, really chase the guy.
Yeah.
Rather than try to hold off these other schools in the fall.
Yeah.
Now, if they can get the commitment of a Jonah Williams or a Michael Fasusi or DeCorian Moore, you'd rather have that right now than not have it, of course. But I think in terms of the urgency behind the scenes, it's there, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not pitching fits if they don't land Jaime Ffrench on Friday. But I will tell you this, like, there's supreme confidence that Texas is going to be the pick for Jaime Ffrench. Now, a caveat there is there's been supreme confidence for other big-time recruits in this class, and those haven't gone the way of Texas. The two you think about right away are DeCorian Moore, when he decommitted originally from LSU before he committed to Oregon, and Riley Pettijohn, the in-state linebacker, who we thought all along was going to Texas, and he ends up going to Ohio State. You can throw Michael Fasusi into that equation since he committed to Oklahoma, but I think for a couple weeks leading into that decision, that was trending Oklahoma's direction for a number of reasons. With the other two, though, it was all along like Texas, Texas, Texas until like the last 24, 48 hours, it kind of flipped momentum. So people behind the scenes, people that do this for a living, feel really confident about Jaime Ffrench picking Texas on Saturday or on Friday morning. But for Texas fans out there, just be aware, like things can change instantly. So
yeah,
I think we have time for
as with all things college football.
Yeah, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
we probably have time for one or two more questions because we gotta switch gears and get to our NFL episode for tonight. We covered Jaime Ffrench. I'd say I don't really want to get into Dia Bell tonight. So maybe offensive line or anything else that's on your mind in terms of recruiting.
Yeah, let's go ahead and address offensive line. We just signed a guard, right?
Nick Brooks, yes. He's a tackle. He's a tackle, but he's a large human. Sark and the coaching staff love big humans. Kyle Flood, we know the prototype he loves. But yes, they did get Nick Brooks. So continue on with your question, where you were going with that.
Yeah, so I guess what's your overall feeling on him? For me personally, I don't really know much about him. And I guess moving forward, who are they going after next? So two-part question.
Well, here's the thing with Nick Brooks. He's a large human, like to a different level. 6'7", 6'8"-ish, 360, 350, 360. So he's kind of in the mold of Cam Williams and Andre Kojo, except bigger, if you can believe that, coming out of high school. And he's still, he just started his senior year. He's not from the state of Texas. He's actually moved back and forth between Georgia and Iowa. And for the longest time when he was playing his high school football in Iowa, people thought this guy's going to be the next great offensive lineman for the Iowa Hawkeyes with how big he is. And then he goes back to the state of Georgia, and Georgia jumped into the recruitment. The main schools in the recruitment were Georgia, Iowa, and USC. But Texas really surged over the last month or two. Texas has, I think, really three guards, in my opinion, 3 guards and 2 tackle types in this offensive line recruiting class. They have the Coleman twins. I think both of those are guards. They could potentially swing out to tackle, but I think they'll start at guard.
I think those are swing guys on the interior.
Yeah. I think Jackson Christian out of Port Neches Groves is a guard. I think John Mills is more in a tackle mold. But I think you could see him start on the interior. I think he can play both. The worry with Nick Brooks is the weight. It was kind of a thing with Cam Williams too, but it's just you rarely see these kind of prototypes succeed at the highest levels, at the highest level of college football in the SEC, just because of how big they are going up against these athletic edge rushers in the SEC. But I think he's not Michael Fasusi. He's not in that realm. So this isn't really a consolation prize for losing out on Michael Fasusi, but it does fill a need at tackle. I think he has a lot of upside. He actually, moves pretty well for his size. I think at the very least right away, he's a mauler in the run game.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue for him. And he's got tremendous athleticism for his size. But I think, there will be some development that's needed in terms of pass protection. And I don't foresee Nick Brooks or really any of these offensive linemen being day one starter types. Whereas I think Michael Fasusi could have been that. So he's not a 5-star. The expectation in this offensive line class was you kind of needed to get Michael Fasusi. So that is kind of a disappointment on that end. In terms of who they're going for next, I mean, I think unless they can get back into the Michael Fasusi sweepstakes and flip that kid, I think the offensive line class is pretty much set.
Yeah, and man, 6'8", 350, you said? And he's a junior or he's going into his senior year. That's hard to wrap my head around. I mean, jeez. I guess the thing for me with that is obviously he fits the mold that Kyle Flood likes, but also like my question would just be like, obviously they would have a plan in mind already, but what is the target weight for a guy like that? Like, do you want to have him come down to like 330, or would you just be like, hey, just get stronger and kind of maintain and kind of just?
I think they're going to do. It's a good question. I think they're going to try. I think Texas thinks they can kind of do what they did with Cam Williams and try to get him down, because Nick Brooks is bigger than Cam Williams. Like he's listed all the way up to like 380. I don't think he weighs that much, but he has been listed there. These recruiting services don't really have updated heights and weights for all these kids. So he's listed anywhere between like 6'7", 340, 350-ish to 6'8", like 370, 380-ish. He's a big kid. If you type Nick Brooks into X, or Twitter, as I still call it, somewhere, some way, you can find a video of him walking through the airport when he arrived for his official visit at Texas, and he's hard to miss. I mean, he's really hard to miss. But to answer your question, I think the staff in a strength and conditioning program like they have, the past couple of years with Cam Williams, they think they can get him down to 6'7", 340, 6'7", 335, a more playable weight at tackle. And they're not going to really need him to be, I don't think, a day one guy. So I think that's what they'll try to do with him. He's got a lot of upside. I think if he was 6'7", 335 coming out of high school, we're talking about a potential super blue chip kind of guy. We probably think of Nick Brooks, maybe not as Michael Fasusi, but in that realm of potential like super like higher rated prospects in this class. But as of right now, it's kind of like a lower 4-star. So still a good prospect, a lot of upside there, but unless they can flip Michael Fasusi from Oklahoma, which is not impossible, but I think has slim chances of happening, then this is the offensive line class for 2025.
Yeah. I would love to see this is a completely hypothetical. That's probably never going to happen, but I would love to see a refrigerator package with him and Cam Williams at fullback or something. That would be insane.
Yeah. Right now, Nick Brooks, at least for on 3, they have him as the number 30 overall player in the state of Georgia and the number 17 overall offensive lineman for the class of 2025. So he's not a bad prospect at all. He's a good prospect. The questions come with the height and weight. How big is he actually? And how would they mold that to fit more at tackle? Not really a consolation.
At that height, yeah.
Yeah, not really a consolation.
At that height, you can't play at guard. Sorry.
Yeah. Not really a consolation prize for Michael Fasusi, but a good prospect nonetheless. And I think when you round out this offensive line class, a lot of solid players in the mold that Kyle Flood likes, that Kyle Flood can develop once they get on campus, like he's done with other guys throughout his college career. And I think John Mills and or Nick Brooks, maybe even some of these other guys, Devin Colton, Jordan Coleman, Jackson Christian, their ratings, depending on what they do in their senior seasons, will elevate a little bit once we get closer to signing day.
Right.
All right. We covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover, so good job on that. Again, this has been the second edition of what I'm calling the Texas Football Recruiting Show as of right now, part of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports here on the Raw Prospect Podcast YouTube channel. Again, like and subscribe to our channel if you like what we're doing here. Check out all of our other season preview content, both on the NFL side and the college side. We greatly appreciate it. And I'll actually be back solo for another recruiting show in the next 5 or 6 days. Maybe possibly on Friday evening if I'm free and I can react to a potential Jaime Ffrench commitment. But if not, it'll be maybe Sunday morning or Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Not going to be Saturday, of course, because of all the proceedings with college football.
Yeah.
Going
to be glued to the couch.
But nevertheless, it should be an exciting Friday. Get your coffee ready. Be up 7:30. He's doing it in the morning. He's getting it out of the way in the morning.
Oh, wow.
He's got a game. He's got a game to play in Friday night. So he's not going to be a distraction in the afternoon for his teammates in that game. He's getting it out of the way early in the morning. Knows where he wants
Wow,
to
before
go.
school is crazy.
Yeah, and I
That's
anticipate
crazy to think about.
he'll be playing his first game of his high school senior season as a Texas Longhorn commit. But until then, we will see you next time here on the Recruiting Show. My name is Michael Ween. That's Emmy Nixon. And we'll see you next time. Hook 'em and peace out.